Those of you who subscribe to this channel and occasionally avert your attention towards the comments section may have noticed that subscriber Jan Carl has gone to the extensive effort of collating a number of your most popular video suggestions in one comment, which he updates and posts on each video. Now, I have a backlog of suggestions, some of which I will never be able to make since all of you lovely people post hundreds of suggestions every day here on YouTube, about 30 or 40 on Twitter, and recently about 100 a day on Instagram since I set up an account on there, in addition to the fact that I do sometimes just make up my own ideas. If you have sent in a suggestion or messaged me on any platforms, I want to apologise if I haven't got back to you yet. But unfortunately, the volume of messages has increased as the channel has grown, to the point where even if I spend an hour every evening responding to messages, there are still more coming in than going out. In recognition of Jan Carl's fine work though, I did want to pluck at least one of his collated suggestions out in the near future. And that's exactly what I'm doing with a look at the best 11 in the bottom half of the Premier League table. Now, in case this isn't clear, this is the bottom half as the table finished, looking at every team from 11th place Southampton and below. Occasionally in the past, maybe once or twice, I've made videos looking at the 7 best players from the 3 relegated Premier League teams, as well as a best 11 from relegated players across Europe's top 5 leagues, and I'd be happy to make similar videos to those too at some stage as well, should that be something you are all interested in. For now though, here is my Premier League bottom half best 11. Goalkeeper, Ben Foster. I know this might be controversial, partly because Watford were relegated this season, and partly because there are a few good goalkeepers playing in the bottom half of the Premier League, but I really think Ben Foster has been one of the most underrated players, never mind goalkeepers, of recent times. Foster has been playing Premier League football for almost 15 years, yet I suspect he's made fewer calamitous high-profile mistakes during that entire time than Jordan Pickford and David De Gea have this season alone. You can always tell when someone is a good goalkeeper if their mere presence puts their teams back 4 at ease, and Foster does exactly that. They know he is consistent, a safe pair of hands, and someone who will come out and clear the danger, relieving them of all pressure whenever it is wise to do so. It was a toss-up between 3 keepers, and I'll come to the other 2 later on, but Foster's my number 1. Right back, Richarlison. Before you tear me from limb to limb in the comments section, I know that Richarlison was on loan at Everton this season and has now returned to Monaco, but I'm basing the 11 on each team's squads during the season just gone. Everton have had a really torrid campaign, considering the investment and ambition that has gone on at that football club, but they do have a handful of top 6 players surrounded by rather more mediocre ones. The quality of right-backs in the bottom half of the Premier League is, I would suggest, the weakest of any position, but take nothing away from Richarlison. The Frenchman, who has been capped 18 times by the reigning world champions, has brought real versatility, great athleticism, and a helpful dose of adventurousness to the Everton side at times this season. The 27-year-old isn't perfect. Positionally, he can sometimes be found wanting, and his deliveries into the box can be inconsistent. But he also has the 4th most tackles per 90 in the Premier League this season, and the most interceptions of any Toffees player. Centre-back, Lewis Dunk. Lewis Dunk has been an exceptional servant to Brighton and Hove Albion for a decade, and he has been one of the most dependable centre-backs in the Premier League for the last 3 seasons, but I still think he has stepped up another level this season. The Seagulls skipper has been a rock at the back in Graham Potter's side, who conceded the same number of goals as Chelsea this season, meaning they had the 2nd best defensive record in the bottom half of the Premier League. Dunk has been at the heart of that defensive unit, recording the 5th most blocks of any player in the division and the 10th most successful passes. An excellent centre-back, and based on this season alone, the 28-year-old has to be in Gareth Southgate's England plans going forwards. Centre-back, Nathan Ake. Just to reiterate, Burnley finished 10th last season, which is the top half, so there will be no Burnley players in this 11, just in case any of you were wondering where Nick Pope, James Tarkowski, or Ben Mee were. Partnering Lewis Dunk at centre-back is a man who seems unlikely to be at his current club once next season commences, and that man is Nathan Ake. The Dutch centre-back has long been linked with a return to a top 6 club ever since his arrival on the south coast for £20 million from Chelsea, but following the Cherries' relegation, it seems likely that transfer will now be forthcoming. Ake isn't the tallest centre-back at 5'11", but he has a strong leap, he's quick across the ground, and he can play a bit too. It's the fact that he can play a bit one suspects that has seen Ake linked with a move to Manchester City, given that Pep Guardiola likes his centre-backs to be comfortable in possession of the ball. Bournemouth have been dreadful defensively for much of this season, but Ake is a good centre-back. and it's for that reason that he reportedly is likely to cost any potential suitors somewhere in the region of £35 million. Left back, Luca Digne. Making it an all-Everton affair in the fullback positions, our back four is a South Coast centre-back sandwich with two toffees acting as the bread on either side of them, if you will. In truth, Luca Digne was the most obvious inclusion in this 11 so far, and perhaps the easiest full stop. Brought in from Barcelona for £18 million in 2018, Digne has rapidly emerged as one of the most creative fullbacks in the Premier League. The attack-minded Frenchman has a wonderful left foot, whether he's whipping a ball across the goal from open play or looking to get the ball up and over a wall from a set piece on the edge of the box. Digne had the 8th most chances created of any player in the Premier League this season, and the 2nd most among defenders, trailing only Trent Alexander-Arnold, but ahead of his Liverpool teammate Andy Robertson. Holding midfield, James Ward-Prowse. There are going to be some arguments over the ball when it comes to set pieces in this 11, with 2 or 3 set piece specialists, and I think James Ward-Prowse is quite possibly the most consistent set piece taker in the Premier League. Maybe second to Kevin De Bruyne, but there isn't much in it, and that is some compliment. Ward-Prowse offers a lot more than just ability from dead ball situations though. He's also creative on the ball, industrious off the ball, and a brilliant reader of the game. He played in every minute of every Premier League game for Southampton this season, ranking among the top 20 players in the league in terms of tackles per 90, key passes per 90, and crosses per 90. Still aged only 25, Ward-Prowse just signed a new 5-year deal at St Mary's, and I think he's a little unfortunate to have only won 2 caps for England. Holding midfield, Declan Rice. One of the reasons James Ward-Prowse may struggle to add to that tally of 2 caps is fellow England international Declan Rice, who at the age of 21 has already won 7 caps for the Three Lions since switching his international allegiance from Ireland to England. I apologise to the Irish guy, who is now crying into his cornflakes. Chin up, pal, they'll never be able to take Glenn Whelan away. Ever since I first saw Rice play, I've been a big fan of his and stated as much on this channel, and I think he's continued to grow his fine reputation this season. Positionally excellent, Rice is so often in the right place at the right time, and his footballing IQ means he'd look comfortable playing anywhere from centre-back to even in a creative role pushing forwards towards attacking midfield. Rice ranks 9th in terms of interceptions per 90 minutes in the Premier League this season, 5th in terms of tackles, and we saw against Watford what he is capable of when given too much space on the edge of the box as well. A brilliant midfielder who is understandably courting plenty of interest. If anyone is to take West Ham's Player of the Year off their hands this summer, he won't come cheap. Right wing, Jarrod Bowen. I like to nail my colours to the mast on this channel, and I've made no secret of the fact that I think West Ham picked up an absolute bargain in January with the signing of Jarrod Bowen. A man who had put Hull City in a false position for 2 seasons, the Tigers' calamitous drop following his departure speaks volumes of his talent, and he was by far the best player in the Championship prior to his deadline day move. Bowen is difficult to dispossess, he uses his body well, and he has good close control. The 23-year-old does his best work out wide on the right, where defenders struggle to pick him up as he cuts inside onto his stronger left foot, or even when he just drifts into the 6-yard box to bag a tap in. West Ham haven't always played him in his best position since his mid-season arrival, but he has still been the club's best player along with Declan Rice and Thomas Souček, and without him, the Hammers may well have gone down this season. The only thing that Jarrod Bowen really lacks for a wide man is raw pace, but if he had that, he never would have ended up at a bottom half club in the first place. Attacking midfield, Jack Grealish. In terms of raw ability, I don't think there is a better player in the bottom half of the Premier League table than Jack Grealish. I first saw Grealish live about 5 years ago against Hull City when he was only 18, and the poor kid was kicked all over the park, but he kept on picking himself up and looking to make things happen again. Grealish loves to get hold of the ball and run at players, and he can embarrass even the best defenders when he's in full flight. Grealish had the 7th most completed dribbles and the 2nd most chances created behind Kevin De Bruyne in a struggling Aston Villa side this season. A boyhood Villa fan, Grealish will be in high demand this summer, and the only thing that would put one of the top 6 off launching a really spectacular bid is his occasional off-field indiscretions. Left wing, Richarlison. The left wing is certainly the most competitive position in this entire 11 as far as I'm concerned, but I still felt that it was an easy decision to go for Richarlison. Over the last 2 seasons, Neymar is the only Brazilian to outscored Richarlison in Europe's top 5 leagues, and I think the fact that he has hit 15 goals this season, following 14 last season, in a far from superb Everton team, perhaps hasn't been fully appreciated. Richarlison is among the most dangerous and effective forward or wide players outside of the Premier League's top 10, but Everton are a team who will be hoping their players can't be considered for an 11 like this next season. Centre forward, Danny Ings. The first name on this team sheet, Danny Ings, has been utterly sensational this season. Southampton's number 9 scored 22 Premier League goals this season, finishing joint second in the division scoring charts with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang and only missing out on the Golden Boot to Jamie Vardy by 1 goal. What's more, on a minutes per goal basis, Ings was actually more prolific than Vardy, averaging a goal every 128 minutes that he spent on the pitch, a tally bettered only by Sergio Aguero. Without Danny Ings, Southampton would have been relegated by Christmas, but thanks to him dragging them out of the mire when they were in really woeful form, they ended the season at the top of the bottom half of the table, if you will, in 11th place. Ings is a workhorse who bothers defenders all games, anticipates where the ball is going to drop, and can score a myriad of different types of goals. This season, he has been arguably the best centre forward in the Premier League, so his spot in this 11 was never in doubt. That is it for my starting 11, but I will quickly name my 7 substitutes, starting with Newcastle United number 1, Martin Dubravka, who has the most saves of any goalkeeper in the division this season and the most clean sheets of any goalkeeper in the Premier League's bottom half. A very honourable mention must go to Lucas Fabianski, who I like a lot, and there's very little to split all 3 of Foster, Dubravka and Fabianski as far as I'm concerned. My backup centre-back is West Ham's Issa Diop, who is joined by Brighton's Dan Burn, who has been excellent this season on the left of a back 3 and could cover at centre-back or left-back. In midfield, I've gone for John McGinn, who subscribers to this channel will know I have long admired, and I think he's looked right at home in the Premier League this season. There's real strength in depth in the forward areas, where my last 3 substitutes are Crystal Palace's starman Wilfried Zaha, the jewel in Newcastle United's crown Alan St-Maximin, and Everton's centre forward Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I've no doubt that Palace and Newcastle fans will feel Zaha and St-Maximin ought to have made the starting 11, in place of either Richarlison or Jarrod Bowen. But remember, this is just my 11, and you will naturally disagree with some of my selections. On a similar note, whilst I could reel off the likes of Emi Buendia, Thomas Souček and Gerard Deulofeu as honourable mentions, in truth, there are too many players for me to possibly mention. It would only lead to complaints regarding those that I've missed in the comments. It's important to remember that there are 10 teams in the bottom half of the Premier League, and everyone will think 2 or 3 of their players ought to feature in the 11. But of course, the maths dictates that just wouldn't be possible. Nevertheless, I will pick a manager, and the manager I'm going for has to be David Moyes. Just kidding. Obviously, it's Carlo Ancelotti, but the 3-time Champions League winner has plenty of work to do this summer and indeed next season at Goodison Park if this season is anything to go by. That's all from me then, folks, but thank you as ever for watching. Give us a like if you enjoyed the video, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and make sure to subscribe to HITC Sevens. And if you're looking for more, you can always follow me on both Twitter and Instagram, where the username is @HITC Sevens on both platforms.